morning. My name is Kathleen Kendall-Tackett, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Polaris Press. And today we have with us Dr. Diane Sanford. She is the author of Stress Less, Live Better. And today we're going to actually talk a little bit about mindfulness, which is the topic of her book. And Diane actually specializes in helping people incorporate mindfulness into their everyday life. So Diane, could you give us a little bit of an overview? Now, what is mindfulness?
So mindfulness is defined as paying attention on purpose to the present moment. And they used to say without judgment. I say with self-compassion because I think that's much better. But research indicates that we spend 80% of our time worrying about the future, 20% of our time regretting the past, and very little in the present moment. Mindfulness teaches us how to redirect our attention to the moment we're in, where often all is well, and we can take a breath and start to de-stress and enjoy our life more.
So what would that look like? I mean, how would somebody do this kind of on a daily basis? You know, if you and I kind of have talked a little bit about how sometimes people feel like they don't have time to take, 20 minutes or half an hour to meditate. Are there other ways that people can incorporate this?
There are many other ways. And one of the reasons I wrote this book is so that people will understand you don't have to spend 45 minutes on your sofa in a yoga position in order to make this work. I've developed a program called Stress Less, Live Better. And in that, there are 5 simple steps. But let me give you an example of some of the things that are easy to do first. So if you're in carpool line, waiting for your child, you just take a breath in and out. And you simply take 10 breaths, count to 10. But the idea is during that time, you're not reviewing your to-do list, you're not thinking what's going to happen when you pick your child up. You're just in the moment, which until you experience it is a little, out there to understand. But the idea is some way to redirect your attention. So here's another example, and this is what we call informal practice. So say you're taking a shower. And a lot of us in the morning, right, we're taking our shower, but we're reviewing our to-do list and what we did yesterday and what we're going to do tomorrow and things like that. The idea is to get back into the experience of taking the shower. So to smell the soap, to notice if you're washing your hair, what it feels like, to have the sensation of the water rushing against your skin. So again, it's having the experience of being in the moment, because when that happens biochemically in our bodies, stress begins to ease and we experience more pleasant thoughts, feelings, and sensations, which again in mindfulness we call the triangle of awareness. And you can intervene with any one of those in having a more present moment focused experience. Sounds like a lot of words, but being in the moment, really being present to your life. So another thing I have people do is when you're with your children, be with your children. Turn off the cell phone. Oh my God, that sounds so hard, but it's part of the practice. So turn off your cell phone and actually look your child in the eyes and pay attention to what they're saying. I was out of town a while back and there was a mom who was very distracted, not paying any attention, and her son fell off his seat twice and was eating his food off the floor. I mean, he picked it up first and got back on his seat. But we spend so little time in the moment, and in the moment is where we can find relief from stress. So those are a couple of examples, but there are lots of examples throughout the book. The way I think about it now, because I've studied with many different people, is that let me see if I can say this concisely. What we're really learning to do is direct our attention intentionally, so that instead of reacting on autopilot or our conditioned reaction, we can respond with choice. So I decided to break it down into 5 skill sets, each which have a different object of attention. So the first is simply breathe. And in simply breathe, guess what the object of attention is? It's our breath. But it doesn't have to be our breath meditating for 45 minutes. It can be our breath, again, waiting in carpool line. I love to practice standing in the grocery line, because that always gives me a lot of opportunity for my frustration to kind of come and go. And again, to create a sense of ease for myself instead of a sense of greater distress. The second skill set is called Soothe Your Body. And these are body-centered techniques that you can learn. One of my clients' favorites is to notice where they're experiencing muscle tension in their bodies and just note the qualities they're experiencing. So does it feel, well, first of all, where is it? Because most of us aren't connected to our bodies throughout the day. So, but is it tight or loose or warm or cool? Instead of using words like good or bad or I like this or I don't like this, evaluative kind of words. And as they begin to do that, as they begin to observe it, so that's another big part of mindfulness as you become more skilled, becoming the observer or witnesser of your experience. So as they begin to observe it, they actually notice the tension starting to dissolve. And when I do this with clients, I also go the next step, because part of my background is in relaxation training as well. So we intentionally relax or breathe comfort and calm into the tight places in our body. You can do that in 3 to 5 minutes. And everyone has 3 to 5 minutes to spare during their day. So the next set of skills, which is one of my favorite, is called Savor the Moment. And that's experiencing mindfulness through sensory sensation. So the 5 senses, and I always get these wrong, but I'll try. Touch, taste, feel, sound, and sight. So I love to practice it when I'm eating, because eating to me is great fun. I love food. It's a delightful experience when I'm tuned in. So I might be quiet for the first 5 minutes of a meal and just notice the taste and the texture and the aroma. Until you start practicing these things, they sound kind of far out, and like, really just noticing what I'm eating can help me feel better. But over time, it becomes a change in mind as well as skills acquisition. So, and we'll talk about that more later on. The fourth skill set, which everyone tells me is what they need most, is called Settle Your Thoughts. And it's the idea that we are not our thoughts. Thoughts are not facts. Thoughts come and go. And we can learn simple exercises like imagining our thoughts as clouds and letting them pass through the sky, or leaves running down a stream. Just, again, 3 to 5 minutes can really go a long way. And that's what I recommend, actually, when people are getting started. 3 to 5 minute exercises, 2 to 3 times a day, every other day if you need to, but doing them enough on a regular basis so that you begin to experience the benefits of it. So in Settle Your Thoughts, we learn to observe our thoughts but not get too attached to them. And the final one, which now I think is most important, is self-compassion always. And this is the whole idea of accepting ourselves as we are, not as we want to be, or all the social comparison we do day to day. Yeah, right? So, and women are particularly.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, that seems
Yeah,
to be,
right?
yeah.
So I just had someone in my office the other day who said, I really need to work on this. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, we all need to work on it. So, and women, like you and I've said before, are programmed in different ways because of their hormones and the situations they find themselves in. So, self compassion, words of loving kindness, which can be as simple as waking up in the morning and thinking about something good you did the day before, or noticing when you smile at someone or give them a compliment. So, again, not big things, but on a regular basis, it's a very big change. And many of my clients report this has changed my life.
Yeah.
This has really made it different in how I approach other people, in how I relate to myself. So I became a believer of this stuff a few years ago when I went through some health challenges and then a divorce. And we talk about all that in the book, so I'm just going to mention it here. But it really saved my emotional life. And that's why I became very convicted about it. And you and I started talking about doing this book, and there we are.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, one of the things I really like what you say is, about how it's so important if you're going to treat other people nicely, that you learn to treat yourself nicely.
So that's where it starts.
Yeah.
And again, we read all these things about, other love begins with self-love and put your oxygen mask on first, and, all the little sayings they have these days. It's so important. And most people really don't treat themselves well. And part of what mindfulness does, which again is this idea that being more mindful isn't necessarily going to be pleasant all the time. You're not going to experience nirvana and feel like you're floating off the ground. It's not going to happen. Go to a float tank for that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's the little things. And laughing is good.
Laughing is
Laughing is very good because laughing is a present moment experience, right?
Yeah.
We're back out of the muck of tomorrow, yesterday. But anyway, we really want to hone in on these daily experiences and start doing what we can to build on them. And you'll be amazed at what can happen. So anyway, many of my clients who were skeptics at first, no longer skeptics, and realize that this is a very practical, common sense approach to easing anxiety, worry, self-criticism, which we have to the hilt, and enjoying life more.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for that great overview. And if you're interested in learning more, as Diane said, her book is called Stress Less, Live Better. It's going to be, it's in production right now. Will be available within the month on proclarispress.com. It will also be available on Amazon. And I want to thank you, Diane, for coming and talking to us today and giving us this great overview. And we look forward to seeing you back here again soon.
Thank you, Kathy. It's been great.